we are. We're going to be going into map number 2, Entombed Valley. I feel like this one is going to be a pretty good one for Grubby. He can come up with a nice strategy for this map.
Yeah, could do indeed. There's a lot of plays that you go onto 3 bases very, very quickly with. We see that from hasuOBS for a lot of the time with his 1 gate into 3 Nexus with that 1 cannon picking away at the rocks. Most of the time you don't see that cannon picking away at the rocks from other players, but I mean, Grubby could incorporate that in and make it work out quite nicely.
All right, well, the game has started. Let's get into there and try to figure out what are these guys going to do. It is Grubby going up against Slivko. Of course, follow them on Twitter. They need your support.
At follow Grubby and at VP BenQ Slivko. So let's jump into the game with spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here as our red Protoss. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Grubby. And the winner of our previous game, 1-0 up in this best of 5, looking to take 2 more wins to advance on to the final. Give it up for VP BenQ Slivko.
All right, so this map, Entombed Valley, I think you were mentioning before, Claris, that actually ESL is one of the few tournaments that actually has it forced cross spawns,
yes,
which is great to hear. It actually makes the map a lot better, a lot more fair. You're going to know where your opponent is. It's not going to be randomly a little bit too close for you. And that's going to be nice for Slivko. You know, Grubby would probably rather prefer he's in the top left, but, you know, not necessarily the biggest deal. Grubby's definitely someone who can plan out a great long-term, long-game strategy. And in fact, on this map, when I think about it, and what do you do as Grubby here against Slivko, who's been so tough for you? Slivko gets up to so many drones so quickly. I feel like the 3 base plus 2 blink timing might be the answer.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. You need to keep an eye on exactly what your Zerg opponent is doing to make this work out. It's very, very important indeed. He didn't really have too much intel on Slivko there, so one could say that his scouting was a little bit weird. And, whoa.
This is kind of a quick pull. So, you know, this is... Grubby hasn't actually scouted in the main base. So I wonder if he's going to actually have his full defenses up. You were saying about how Slivko oftentimes gets lings in Grubby's base.
Yeah, he does.
This definitely could be one of those times.
Yeah, it could be. I've seen quite a lot of very, very good and strong walls on this map, despite it being something like a little bit of an early pull, and he's only actually just producing 2 Zerglings anyway. So this was never Slivko's intention, but, you know, there could have been that potential sneak in.
Yeah, always could be. Always very annoying as Protoss when that does happen to you as well. So everything looks like it's going to proceed somewhat normally here. And we're going to have to wait a little bit, of course, until we can really know what Grubby's up to with Slivko. It's a lot more obvious. He's a player that wants to play that long macro game because he's just so good at it. And, in fact, that's already what he's going for, that 3 hatchery play. You don't see a lot of deviation from Zerg. It's either like an all-in or this.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already ran down exactly what Grubby can do on this map. It's a good map for Protoss if they want to go into that longer game, but you still, I cannot reiterate enough how much you need that intel, how much you need to know what your opponent is up to. So Grubby here is going to be opening things up. The cannon actually is not in range of the rocks, something that is going to make hasuOBS frown.
Yeah, hasuOBS would have that hitting the rocks right now, not that depot. Yeah. That's for sure.
He would. He does not like rocks at all. He wants the cannon kicking those rocks all the way down. As for now, we will have the hatchery still on the way for Slivko, 3rd base imminent. I guess the one thing I do like about Protoss on this map sometimes is when they go for 2 bases and Zergs have neglected to take down the rocks. That's really annoying for them. But oh, actually going for a Stargate. All
right, I like this from Grubby. I'm a fan of Stargate openings as well. Of course, if you go Stargate into the +2 Blink Stalker timing, which we've seen some people do, specifically a few Korean players, it's a little bit too slow. It doesn't really hit, the infestors kick in, and things go poorly. So not likely to see something like that, but whenever you see a Stargate, very, very likely, especially on this map that's going to be a 3 base build. Definitely not a 2 base all-in.
it's looking pretty macro-based here right now, as we do have just a group spread going from Slivko, trying to get his bases connected as well as maybe out into the middle of the map as well. Meanwhile, just grabbing those extractors just to get all his speed and everything like that going eventually. Could quite easily go into that Roach Warren as well to keep himself very, very nicely bolstered. And, you know, Grubby poking around, seeing the third, tries to get a drone or two, but don't think he's going to get that.
No, Slivko is not going to lose a drone to a single Zealot. A single Zealot is not too effective for much more than scouting.
Yeah.
So that will be taken down. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And Grubby right now just continuing Phoenix production, not really showing where he wants to go from this. Does he want to go straight into that third base? Does he want to grab the Robo? Probably going to be Robo and third base coming up pretty soon here.
Yeah, that probe's moving out in the general direction of that third location. Zerglings are moving out at exactly the same time, though, as is the Overlord to actually scout out exactly what's happening there. So, you know, Slivko knows his timings. He is keeping well on top of this, and as such, Grubby needs to create a little bit more of a defensive parameter, potentially.
Yeah, and you know what? That Overlord sees exactly what's going on over there. Still hasn't shown his Phoenixes. Looks like he wants to wait for that magical 4 where you can actually go in and start killing queens with just one lift.
It's funny because, you know, Entombed Valley, for me, in a similar vein to how we were saying Daybreak is that standard map where you go for just standard builds and stuff like that. Entombed Valley is your special build map. Entombed Valley is where you kind of really start cranking out those 3 base, and it's the third base dynamic on Entombed Valley. It works like none other. So for this map, you have to play it just that little bit differently.
Yeah, you do, and Grubby is getting ready for that, as is Slivko. Now, Slivko's making some roaches. He sees the Phoenixes finally, but definitely going to take some damage. Getting there before he even starts the Spore. He can either go after 2 queens and then Overlords, or start picking up some drones.
This is well done here by Grubby. Can he get that first queen? Will find a rich vein of Overlords to start picking away at with his little Phoenix pickaxe. And meanwhile, actually,
he hit that. He hit his other queen. This is... Okay.
Yeah, where is it?
No, there was supposed to be a queen there. That's why he went over there so quickly.
Oh, it's up in the mineral line.
If they don't see, your Phoenixes till you get there, you can kill off 2 queens before the spores are done. But really smooth move there. Grubby though taking a lot of damage on his Phoenixes.
Yeah, very, very well done here. He's going to pick up a few of these gas mining drones as well, limiting just a little bit of that teching potential here from Slivko. And meanwhile, grabbing that Nexus behind this. So Grubby just going into his standard expansion play from here, getting that Twilight Council as well as the second Forge once again for those double upgrades.
Oh, wow. But you know what? This is different than last time, because he does have those Phoenixes. And there's actually like a really funny, extremely old build that MC made where you mix in Phoenixes with your Charged Law Archon Immortal type of composition. And you know, you can do things like lift up Infestors, lift up some extra roaches, and it actually ends up working out pretty well. But Grubby did lose one of those Phoenixes, so if that's exactly what he's going for, it's not going to be quite as good as he would have liked.
Yeah, you're right. If you can get lifts on those Infestors, it's so good. Slivko posing the question to Grubby, do you even lift? We know Slivko certainly does. As for now, the Immortal getting it. Oh, picks up just before that 4th base go down. A nice little snipe there. He does lift.
He does lift.
What, man?
No, he does. It's a good question. All right, so we have a lot of Zealots being warped in right now. That 2-1 on the way. Grubby already has 2 Immortals out, 3rd one coming up. And this is nice. I like that he's waiting a little bit longer. You know, when they were talking about it earlier, Pig and Hasuavs, they felt like Grubby should have waited a bit more, and he is doing so this game, it seems. And that's really going to be helpful, because he needs to have that crucial mass so that roaches don't just destroy him.
And right now, that Hive and Spire are morphing in, but Grubby still has no intel on that. Where is his observer? The answer is he doesn't have one yet. But we certainly have one in the form of Infeza. And right now, he needs an observer. He needs to get this intelligence. He needs to know that his opponent is making that. Otherwise, he cannot hit the timings he so sorely desires.
That is very true. And he's lost 3 of his Phoenixes to kill a drone. And he wants to slow that base down, but 3 Phoenixes for that. I mean, I guess he got some of the energy 3 Fungals out of his opponent, but I don't know that this was completely worthwhile for him. So, you know, Grubby he's gearing up still. He doesn't know about that Hive, but he's going to have to move out. He's got Psystorm on the way, upgrades finishing. He can't wait much longer.
It's like a 3-base semi all-in. He needs to move out, and if he does great damage, then he can actually go home and expand. But still, he needs to be teching up behind that, and he needs that damage to keep him secured in this game. Otherwise, Slivko could just roll over him again.
His move-out timing is now. Charge is finishing. An Immortal just finished. The 4th, in fact. He starts a 5th, and I mean, he's sitting tight at 66 probes, making exactly 1 more. So even though we see this pylon queued up over here, his probe count tells us otherwise. He wants to go attack, and based upon how everything's been finishing up, he needs to go. He cannot delay any further.
Yeah, he really does. That Storm finishing up is going to be great for him. How many high templars does he have out right now? 4 in total, and the spine crawlers are going down. Slivko knows this is his vulnerability moment. This is when Grubby can hit that timing if he wants to, and as long as Slivko can hold, that Greater Spire's finishing up soon, and the first Corruptors are already rolling out.
This game, by the way, Slivko has been really on top of his upgrades. Already 1-1, 2-2, halfway done. Won't finish before this battle starts, though. And Grubby is moving forward. Don't forget, he has Psystorm this time as well. 5 Immortals. So really, this is going to come down to a lot of fungals, and hopefully the spine crawlers helping out Slivko.
He has a lot of sentries saved up with the energy there, but they're all clumped up. If a force field goes down here, the space controlling potentials of Grubby are nearly needing to hold strong. He throws down some force fields. He actually separates all the sentries pretty darn well there to kick things off. Zealots charge in. Storms go down on the infested Terrans as well as Roaches. The Zealots tanking quite a lot of damage, but does he have enough DPS to break through Artosis?
It is falling down a little bit. Of course, these Immortals going to do a great job. The force fields have been immaculate thus far, and the Psystorm's doing a good job as well. But this is so many infestors. Look at all those infested Terrans being thrown out, and Grubby's going to need another warp in, and probably to hit another location. That is just too many infested Terrans.
And now Artosis, the Brood Lords are out. There's a few on the map right now with 2 in total, but that's going to cause no ends of headaches. But even still, the Roaches and Zerglings flooding in, getting really good surface area on these very vulnerable Immortals with no extra gateway units. And Grubby has been pushed back. Slivko taking a 100 supply lead.
And that is more than just a 100 supply lead. He just has the better army right now. So many infestors left over. Grubby is going to have to pull a miracle to fight his way back here.
3-3 now on the way for Slivko as well. He evaluated game number 1. He saw the double forge. He's been really adamant about getting those upgrades out, especially, clear reconstitution on the way. Anyway, the point is now that the Warp Prism is coming out for Grubby, he's going back into that same mentality as game number 1. He fails the aggression. He needs to try and keep him pinned back, but this is going to come even quicker than game number 1. Slivko has such an amazing army.
He really does. He's coming down across the map right now. These Zerglings hitting that base, but that doesn't matter. What matters are the Brood Lords, and they are getting over the cliff already. These Blink Stalkers, what are they going to do? It's so hard to blink into that position.
The Australia cliff in Feza feels right at home, as right now we have those Zerglings still powering through. Nice Storm kills off a lot of them. The Roaches start putting on some pressure to these Zealots, but again, Grubby needs to buy time, but he just can't. Slivko's knocking on his door right now, and with that 3-3 coming down, I mean, Grubby, he blinks forwards, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, he kills off some of the Broods, but so much damage done to his Stalker army. Somehow he still has that 4th Nexus. It is low, and in fact, Slivko not cleaning it up. You know, maybe he's bought himself a little bit of time, but with 7 more infestors on the way, I have a feeling more Broodlords are incoming.
Yeah, and he's even starting that carapace for the Flyers right now, so any kind of Broodlord numbers as well as Corruptor numbers that do gather up, and the Zerglings actually get a Nexus. If anything that was going to keep Grubby in this game, it would have been an economy that was going to try and rival his opponents, but no, Slivko says definitively no, and Grubby tries to still buy some time with this Warp Prism harassment.
Well, that's what he needs. He needs a lot of time, and, you know, Slivko is only on 4 bases, so maybe Grubby can pull something on 3, but it's looking less and less likely with 7 more Broods on the way. Now, we do have this drop coming up, but so quickly Slivko is up here and will eliminate that Warp Prism.
Grubby behind this, getting that, actually he catches a few Broodlords here. He's getting a Fleet Beacon behind it. 3-3 is going to finish in just a second here for Slivko. Actually, the Immortals and the Stalkers need to move back right now. Those infestors were looking for that fungal.
Oh, that was so close, but as he kills 3, 8 more replace them. Slivko right now being the Hydra Zerg, despite not making any Hydras.
And when he goes up to, whoa, he's going to have 10 Broodlords very, very rapidly here. And with that, with Grubby trying to expand behind it as well, getting even more Warp Prism harassment going down eventually, He can try and buy time. He needs Slivko to be passive here, but once Slivko maxes out with those 10 extra Brood Lords, the chances of him being passive are very, very slim to none.
Well, you know, hopefully this Warp Prism can get something done. Grubby is raising his supply. You know, he's no longer down around 100 or 110. Up at 132, he's starting to get together some sort of army that's going to be useful, but he's got to just stay alive a bit longer. He's got to get that 4th base mining as well.
Yeah, he's getting cannons as well. Not going to help him too much against the Broodlords, but just any kind of Ling counterattack is really what he's trying to prepare for there, just in case his opponent invests 20 in. He actually blinks forwards, catching one of the Broodlords there for 1 or 2 Stalkers. That was a nice trade, actually, for Grubby.
For 2 Stalkers, you can't go wrong there. So right now he is actually harassing as well, but it looks like Slivko wants to end the game. These Zealots doing great damage, but this army, can Grubby stop this army once more?
Yes, 27 workers killed thus far. Roach is actually going to kill off a lot of these Zealots here. And he's still dancing around. I've heard some feedbacks go off somewhere, I'm pretty sure. But there's still a lot of Zerglings on the way here. More Spines going down. Slivko knows that if he, as long as he barrages this 4th base and shuts it down, his opponent's going to have very, very little income left.
Yeah, you know, he's sitting so tightly up at 200 supply. He's even getting a bank, whereas Grubby having... Oh my god, this is huge right now. That is a very nice move, and if he can get even one of these away, it would be big. Doesn't look like it this time, but Grubby with some really amazing moves so far.
Some nice feedbacks there. Mothership is now on the way. Grubby trying to grab himself another 4th base, but his 3rd base is under assault right now. He's getting Void Rays again in a similar way in which he used against Slivko, or tried to in the first series that they had, but can it work? Can he buy enough time to get enough to deal with Slivko?
Well, Grubby trying to blink in and pick things off as Slivko's Death Army marches forward. More and more Lings coming down the map right now. And Grubby with a little engagement in the center. Oh, this is getting worse and worse, and I think Grubby is going to have to GG in a moment.
Yeah, all those Stalkers dying off, and the lack of a bank means that he has no more Stalkers. GG for game number 2. Slivko takes a 2-0 lead here over the Protoss.
That is pretty huge for Slivko. 2-0. Grubby is going to have to pull the most amazing comeback of the tournament if he wants to make it to his first big finals in StarCraft 2.
Yeah, guys, so let's head over to the analysis desk with Jorasar, Hasu, and Pig to see what they have to say about game number 2.
Well, it looks like it's 2-0 for Slivko. Grubby a little bit on the ropes there, looking like he was getting pushing back for quite a lot of that game. I mean, he started off with that Stargate, but Hasu, you were talking about how the unit composition Grubby was going for was similar, and he had a similar idea. Talk us through that and what Grubby had in mind there.
Yeah, it was a slight deviation of the build, like opening up with Stargate, doing some small harassment, not really being too effective with that, I have to say, losing 1 Phoenix, killing a Queen and a few drones. And afterwards, having the 2 Forges, the Twilight Council, but also the late 3rd base. Like, it took him a while to take down the rocks and getting up the Nexus at the 3rd because of the Stargate. And then still hitting the timing around, I think, 1330 or something, with 3 or 2, like, I think it was 3 Immortals, as we mentioned earlier. He should have, like, around 3. And I think the big problem was that he was just attacking into the wrong angle. Like, he had Psystorm with his army, which should be super effective against the style which Slivko is playing, like Zergling, Infestor. You're gonna storm the Zerglings, and everything else is just Infestor, so you can take them out. But apparently, yeah, I think we can hop into the replay and show what Grubby did, because I think there were some mistakes during the engagement, and also like the positioning of his army was a bit questionable. Like having the pylon on the left side right now. Let's pause it for a second and show the pylon. And Slivko did not see the pylon there. So Grubby could reinforce here, but not on this side where he is attacking right now, because there's creep spread and there is no pylon. And Slivko gets a huge information with his tumors. Like, he can see the army composition once again. And so Grubby's moving in. Like, the split was good. And I think, well, the force fields are decent, I'm not really sure, but then he started to storm the X instead of the Zerglings. Like,
absolutely. We see this whole right flank of the army.
Yeah.
The Zerglings are coming in and out, sweeping around, doing lots of damage, absorbing lots of damage. Meanwhile, those storms were falling on those eggs a little bit too early.
And yeah, also this storm only like hit 1 or 2 infestors and some of the eggs, like not dealing the damage he needed to. You need to kill the Zerglings with a storm, and the Immortal's gonna crush the roaches. And the Infestors itself, if there are only like 8 or Infestors, you're going to crush them with reinforcements. But now we see the reinforcements coming from the left side, take him a long time to reinforce the army. And I don't know, like Slivko is so far ahead at this point now.
Of course. But I mean, we've got to go back as well to Slivko held off the early Phoenix harass really, really well with very minimal damage. He then defended so well, pulled his Zerglings away from the storms, threw infested Terrans and baited out storms there. Basically, he just played it perfectly.
That's a great point, actually, Pig, there. We have, of course, a lot of interesting discussion going on about why Grubby's attack failed. But let's talk about Slivko for a second. I mean, what was he doing so right leading up to that just led to him dealing with that so unbelievably well?
I mean, Slivko is just a master of macro. He builds those drones so quickly, so well. He was at the, I think it was like about 11 minutes, he started that Hive and Spy, potentially even earlier. His upgrades were going really, really quickly. Very minimal time between 1-1 and 2-2 starting up. Basically, everything was just really smooth. Even though his 4th drone kept getting picked up by the Phoenix, he didn't let it phase him. He actually didn't creep spread as well as in the other games, but he still threw down a wall of spine crawls and then just moved them out later, as Hasu was pointing out. So basically he just did everything right and he just kind of deflected Grubby's moves and ignored them and just kept on with his solid play.
All right, last question here before we get into this game very quickly. Hasu-Obs, obviously that attack didn't work out for Grubby, but in an ideal situation where he does execute that attack perfectly, what should we be seeing happening?
Well, as I mentioned, I think if the storms hit on the Zerglings, then like they all will disappear within seconds. And if the Zerglings are gone, you got so much more power with your army. Like you reinforce with the Zealot Stalker at that point, or he even had some Archons and Immortals left. So I think if all the Zerglings are gone and there were not too many Spines, just a few Infestors and infested Terrans, I think he should have been able to crush through that. But apparently, as I said, the Storms were in the wrong position, from my opinion at least. And then also there was no reinforcement pylon. It was far on the left side. So yeah, I think Grubby doesn't have the experience yet with this build. It seems like he's doing some wrong calls, which he usually does not with his like very own builds.
Well, we'll see if he can turn that around. Now he is a little bit on the ropes. It's 2-0 to Slivko. Guys, let's throw it over to Artosis and Kalaris and get this next game on the